Alright, Shalom, Israelites. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Alright, Israelites, I was going, over the Tanakh from the beginning. Man, and something just stuck out real strong. I've been talking about the Egyptians and how they tricked us, but it's a little more serious and sinister than that, man. The things that was played on us. And it's like, us Israelites, we have to wake up. You have to get an understanding of some truth. Before we go home and settle in our heritage, it wouldn't make no sense for us Israelites to go into bondage, to punishment, and then get freed by Almighty YAH, and then go home and be even worse than what we were. That's not prophecy, and prophecy is that we're going to worship YAH in our end, and from now on, that we just going to be YAH worshipers like we should have had been from the beginning. We should have had been from the beginning. Then we would have been in alignment with our father Adam and our mother Eve. Even though, they got tricked. And they got tricked by the serpent culture or the serpent, the liar, the trickster. You know what I'm saying? And the name serpent in the Tanakh was just used to describe the characteristics of the individual that deceived our mother into partaking in, that fruit that, she wasn't supposed to eat, that I say that caused them to get high. You know what I'm saying? Because now they know they naked and they hearing stuff and all kind of stuff. So, that they going to be the first to get intoxicated. And that the serpent did that, and he was attacking their head. Then that's why Almighty YAH said that. That's why Almighty YAH said that, man, we got to pay close attention to our Israelite history and Tanakh history. That's why Almighty YAH told the serpent after he got on our mama Eve, our father Eve and our mother, our father Adam and our mother Eve, when Almighty YAH got on them, and then he turned this attention to the serpent. That's the first thing that the serpent attack is the head. Oh man, a serpent, man, that's what he gonna attack is the head first. Man, he gonna attack the head first. And then that's what they did to our mother Eve, you know what I'm saying, when he told her to get, intoxicated, you know what I'm saying, and that the serpent, man, attacks the head first. Man, the serpent attacks the head first, and everybody know that. Everybody know that the serpent attacks the head first. The serpent attacks the head first. He devours the head first. So then if he telling our mama Eve to eat something she ain't supposed to, then, he attacking the head, the mind. You know what I'm saying? He done tricked her, and you got to be tricked in the mind first, in order to do some things. So, the serpent, man, consumes the head first. And it made sense that Almighty YAH said that he would put enmity between us. Look, this is Genesis 3, 14. This is after our mother was deceived into eating that intoxicating plant. And then after Almighty YAH got on them, you know what I'm saying, the woman replied, the serpent duped me. See, that's attacking the head. That's attacking the head, lying and deceiving, you know what I'm saying? It goes through the mind first. Then Elohim Yah said to the serpent, because you did this, you are more cursed you shall be than all cattle, and all the wild beasts are on your belly shall ye crawl, and dirt shall ye eat, and all the days of your life I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. So the serpent was going to have some offsprings. He was going to have some offsprings. And look, and hers. Then they shall strike at your head, and you shall strike at their heel. And to the woman he said, so look, the serpent will strike at our mother's head, mother's descendant offspring's head, and those will be the ones that called on Yah, because Adam and Eve are gonna be the first Yah worshipers. You see what I'm saying? And then you see how that they was attacked by the serpent. They was attacked by the serpent, who attacks the head first. You know what I'm saying? He gonna bruise that head, and then and ye shall strike at their heel. Now, if we strike at the serpent's heel, if we, wake up to what's going on, and then we strike at the serpent's heel, he gonna be like this. He ain't gonna be able to move. He gonna have to sit on down, and then that's at the foundation, man. You can't walk, man. If your heel tore up and messed up, man, that'll shut a strong body down. You could be strong at the top, have big old muscles and have big old ideas, but if your heel is messed up, you can't do nothing. You got to lay it on down. You know what I'm saying? And that's why Almighty Yah said that. And then, when you think about it, what culture got us and took us down through there that symbolized the snake? None other than the Egyptian culture, man. The Pharaoh had a snake on his head the whole time, letting you know what type of person he was. You know what I'm saying? And that he was a serpent. And their religion that we fell for was pure from the serpent. And guess what their religion did to us? It destroyed us. The book of Jeremiah tell you how one of the serpent worshippers who had a serpent on his head, and I just come from New York looking at his statue. None other than Nietzsche. Nietzsche got a serpent on his head. You see what I'm saying? And he came in and deceived the Israelites after he had the Yah worshiper killed, and then put the Israelites on Egyptian religion. And we will go into Africa and get our whole head bruised. Our whole head been bruised, man, the whole time, from breaking covenant, going into Africa, getting captured, and then brought to the Americas, indoctrinated, and then you got Israelites with all kind of thoughts. Man, I'm talking about all kind of mentalities floating around that is not based on our heritage, and then how that the Israelites and them picked up the ways of the serpent. Yes, picked up the ways of the serpent, and then think that is cool, lying and deceit. Lying and deceitful, and being untruthful and wicked, and think that it's alright to be wicked. You got Israelites, man, think that it's alright to be evil, meaning wicked, and that is cool, and that, it's okay. And that the world gonna keep turning, and we can keep being wicked. Man, that's how Israelites think, not knowing that they doing serpent culture. Serpent culture started out with deception in the Tanakh, when the serpent deceived our mother and father. So we know serpent culture ain't no good, and then serpent culture can be traced to just about all ethnic groups. Man, I'm talking about it's a whole bunch of ethnic groups that worship the serpent, man, that's in our community right now today. Right now today. Right now today. You got folks that's in our community right now today are robbing us that come from a serpent culture. You know, we know who they are, and man, they control by, you know what I'm saying, they control everything just about in the community. And then you got the serpent and dragon, the serpent and dragon culture. This is the Amorite culture. They the serpent and the dragon, the snake and the dragon. Look, snake, dragon, symbol of murder. You know what I'm saying? Now this religion and gods and folks, man, tore us up, and they was placed in our heritage and consumed the Israelite heritage. I just did a video of how the Amorites got into the heritage that was from Babylon and from the Promised Land. They the snake dragon folks, and then they took us down through there. Man, they took us down through there. But wasn't no other snake worse than the Egyptian culture. That serpent took us down through there. Man, they didn't spare us none at all. Look, man, I'm going to read y'all something. And then y'all know that this is true, because you can see it, you know, in the East, how they worship the serpent, right? Right? All right, how about when Cain left? When Cain left and went off, when Cain left and went off, that Cain went off to the land of Nod, that was in the East. Look, and Cain didn't call on the Creator, so Cain gonna be in alignment with the serpent. Look, and Cain went out from thence. Now, he killed his brother Abel, and then ran to the land of Nod, who it couldn't have been occupied by none other than the serpent. Look, now the serpent was more suitable than any beast of the field which the Elohim had made. And he said unto the woman that talked, had Yah said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden, tricking them off the flop, seeing the creation and start trying to trick it, just like they do now today. Just like they do now today with these false religions that they got the Israelites under. They come from the serpent, because if it didn't come from Yah and you're not doing Yah worship, then you slick honoring the serpent by not doing Yah worship. No matter what you call your religion or how you present it, you're doing the serpent's deed and honor, because the serpent don't want you to worship Yah, the Creator, because he was more. Now the serpent was more suitable than any beast of the field which the Elohim Yah had made. And he said unto the woman, had Yah said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? See, being wicked. But look, check this out. Now after the serpent then tricked our mama, and you know, our mama and father had another son. Our mama had another son, Seth. Look, and Adam knew his wife again. This after Cain and killed his brother Abel, and she bore a son and called his name Seth. For Yah said, she had appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. Now to Seth, to whom also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began man to call upon the name of the Elohim. See, Yah, you see, before then, man, Cain wasn't calling up on Yah. He done took off after he done killed his brother, and look, and Cain went out from the presence of the Elohim and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And listen, that's the serpent. Listen, that's the serpent. So he had to go where the serpent was, or where the serpent folks was. He had to go where the serpent folks was, or where the serpent was, or the fallen angelic beings was, and that was in the east. And then look in the east, man, that's all they do is serpent worship. serpent worship, and then they got their religions and creeds built around it. You know, they got their religions and creeds and rituals built around it, trying to distance themselves from the serpent worship. That's just gonna be just about all the religions. Look, even back in the days, look, and we know well, Islam was created. You know what I'm saying? We know where it was created, and how that it was created in the Arabian Peninsula. And look, snake symbolism. Look, snake symbolism is prevalent throughout recorded history, and it is seen in cultures vastly separated from distance and time, such as from ancient Egypt to modern Jordan. Look, to modern Jordan, where the Amorites, Moabites, and all them was. In the southern Levant, present-day Jordan, and Palestine, many objects with snake obelisks have been discovered during excavation. 25 pieces of pottery shreds and vessels decorated with snake obelisks were recorded during various excavation of early Bronze Age sites in southern Levant. 10 shreds with snake obelisks belong to unidentified pottery vessels. 7 shreds with the identified from bowls. You know, so mean they had look snakes on everything, snakes on everything in what they call the Levant, in that went from the Mesopotamia to Jordan. You know what I'm saying, to Egypt. You know, all them did serpent worship. You know, all them did serpent worship. And then, guess what tricked us Israelites? But I ain't finished with this Cain thing. Now, you see how Cain went to the east, and then we know that's all there was worship. Meaning the east was serpent worship. Serpent worship. You know what I'm saying? Serpent worship. And then this just symbolized, you know what I'm saying, the origin in the father of their religions. You know, if they ain't doing YAH worship, then they religion comes from the serpent. When you break it all down to its base, no matter how they cry and jump up and down and all this, if you look at the people's nation and origin, man, they gonna be doing serpent worship. They gonna be doing serpent worship, and then just those who's from Seth line on down were YAH worshipers. Now the serpent worshipers have been at us for a long time, and then they got the fruit of the basket. It is the Israelite nation that was supposed to be pure YAH worshipers, millions of us, whereas at first it was just maybe a handful of YAH worshipers trying to make it. You know, our father Abraham had a pretty big household, but it wasn't in the 100,000s and 10,000s and the millions. You know, that's how our father Jacob was blessed to have YAH worshipers come from him like that. And then us YAH worshipers was supposed to subdue and put the lights out of the serpent worshipers. You know what I'm saying? And that's all the false fake religions, you know, because they origin gonna come from serpent worship. No matter how they try to dress it up today and put clean clothes, put clean clothes on, you know what I'm saying? They still some serpent worshipers, and we know that if you ain't YAH worship, that the origin of your religion and your creed and culture going in its beginning, no matter how long ago it was, it's gonna be in the BC days that you gonna be, you know, serpent worship. And that us YAH worshipers' job is to expose the serpent worshipers. But the serpent worshipers tricked us when we went into their nest, would be Egypt. When we sojourned into their nest, you know, Almighty YAH know everything in advance, like he said, you know, man, about the serpent bruising our head. And then sure enough, we bruising his heel. The foundation of the lies is to tell the truth on the Israelite heritage. But look here, we was in the nest. we was in the serpent worshiper nest, and we didn't escape unbruised either, because we kept a connection with Egypt. I already explained how Pharaoh was slick when he gave Joseph Asenath, and then now this is a serpent worshiper. You know, he gave Joseph Asenath, the priest of On daughter, and then the priest of On, man, it's the head serpent worshiper. And then, you know, we kept a Egyptian connection, and then the Egyptians would destroy us, men in our last days, in the book of Jeremiah, when they put us on the Egyptian religion. And then we would go into Africa to do the Egyptian religion, never to recover, and being kidnapped, indoctrinated, and head bruised and everything. You got Israelites believing that they Negroes, blacks, African Americans, and believing in all these religions. Man, that's the sign of a concussion, a head, man, a head concussion, bruise, and that they bruised our head. All right, Israelites. I want to show this. You know, I want to show this, man. If you go to Ezekiel, and this is when the Egyptians done bruised our head. Go to Ezekiel 23. Ezekiel 23. Ezekiel 23. The word of Elohim came again unto me, saying, Son of man, there were two women, the daughters of one mother, and they committed whoredoms in Egypt. They committed whoredoms in their youth, and there were their breasts pressed, and there were the bruised the tents of their virginity. And the name of them were Ahala the elder, and Amala her sister, and they were mine, and they bore sons and daughters. This were their names. Samaria is Ahala, and Jerusalem is Amala. So the Egyptians broke us in, you know, because when our father Abraham went there, that he was a YAH worshiper. The Egyptians couldn't do nothing with him. They put him out and gave him a lot of riches and sent him on his way. Then when our father Jacob showed up, man, they gave us land and everything in Egypt, you know, and he stayed down with the YAH worship. All right. When we leave Egypt and get settled in the land, and then the other nations trying to do trade with Egypt, the serpents, that, you know, we, you know, succumb to their will and put the YAH worship on hold for materialism. We put the YAH worship on hold for materialism, and then that's like the serpent bruise in our head. You know, that's like the serpent bruise in our head. You know, I mean, if we put the YAH worship down for materialism, and then that's how they won. And then that's how they been winning the whole time and so forth, is that they, you know, can find all kind of tricks and ways to get us off YAH worship. And man, they do it in all kind of fashion. Right now, man, they got sports leading the way, and then they got entertainment leading the way, and then they got the religions, you know, all in it, and all this is to get you off and away from YAH worship, so the serpent can continue to prevail and have power and so forth, and that his power ends when we Israelites recognize that, you know, that we got to put YAH first. We got to put Almighty YAH first. And then, you know, once we put Almighty YAH first and we know what YAH stand for, and then we start cutting back on the wickedness that we do, then that's taking the serpent's power away. Man, that's taking the serpent's power away. Me and the serpent do not like for his power to be took away. Look, that's Sata, serpent god. You know that in Herkia, lady was worshiping the serpent. You know, that's what the Egyptians did. You know, I can't see how that we thought that anything that the Egyptians did could benefit us. You know, and we should know by what Almighty Yah did to Egypt when he freed us from that captivity. But Israelites lose sight when, you know, it comes to party and riches. Party and material things and so forth. You know, that's basically what the Tanakh is about. How Israelites broke bad for false worship, false worship, materialism, with false worship behind it and so forth. You know, and man, it comes from the serpent culture. Look, that's like this here. Now we know that that Cain didn't call on the name of the Creator because, you know, and Cain had some descendants, and that Cain gonna go to Nod, and we know that Nod gonna be 9 out of 10 the place where the serpent was, because the serpent, you know, was created. He ain't gonna be the only one, and that was their characteristics, and that, you know, we know that a snake, that a serpent, when he consumes his prey, that he consumes the head first. The head first, and then that's what they did to us. You know what I'm saying? They got us real good with their religion and so forth, and we believed in it, and that stuff couldn't save, and it got us in captivity now. But look here, this what Israelites should know, that look, that we come from a line. So you see how Seth, and and until Adam was born another son, Seth, and then, you know, they began to call on Almighty Yah, and then you look at Seth, and they go all down his descendants and so forth. I'm talking about a lot of Yah worshipers, a lot of Yah worshipers, a lot of Yah worshipers, and then you get to Prophet Noah. You know what I'm saying? And then the Yah worship still strong. The Yah worship still strong, and then, you know, we know that those folks that didn't worship Almighty Yah was still around and so forth, and that maybe Ham, you know, which we know that Ham descendants of Mizraim is serpent worship, and that the serpent worshiping folks had to probably get to Ham, man, before he got on the ship, because Ham disrespected his father Noah and wouldn't cover him up when he seen that Noah, our father, was intoxicated with that grape juice and so forth that had turned into wine, and that how Ham had, you know, disrespected him and wouldn't cover him up and show his father honor, and then how Japhet and Shem covered their father up and showed him respect, but that the serpent worshiping folks had to probably influence Ham, man, before the flood, because after the flood, look at his descendants, man, they all full of serpent worship, man, they all full of serpent worship, and we know the Canaanite tribes and all 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 of Ham's sons, man, them Hamites, man, they was in all kind of mess. They was in Mesopotamia as Amorites. The Amorites, I showed that the Amorites had mixed up with the serpent, the Nephilims. So with Cain descendants and so forth. I got videos talking about that, and it's easy to show how that the that the giants were none other than the serpent folks mixed with Cain and them, and that how they didn't call on Almighty Yah. And any religions that don't call on Almighty Yah and coming through us Israelites, man, gonna be from them serpents. I'm here to tell you. And then that's how we doing it as Israelites. That's how we doing it as Israelites. All the religions that ain't about Yah worshiping coming from us and dealing with what Almighty Yah say in that Tanakh gonna come from serpent worship. And it's just that on that. That's that on that. That's a done deal. But look here, alright, so we know that old Mesrim, look, and Mesrim begot love. And see, Mesrim, he was all, you know what I'm saying, they all messed up. That's each. They all messed up with serpent worship. So how did they get like that? How did they get like that? The serpent had got to him, they father, some kind of way. Now, and that's just common sense because the Canaanites, you know, the Canaanite tribes was all messed up with the dragon, and a snake. Now, what worse animal can you get to represent your culture than a dragon and a snake? Man, a snake is real stealthy and slick, and he consumes, you know what I'm saying, the head first. That come from the Canaanite culture. That come from the Hamites. All right, Israelites, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. I just had to show that how the serpent got us. When Almighty Yah see that a serpent will bruise our head, and then we got to bruise his heel by waking up to our Israelite heritage and Yah worship. We got control of it. Well, we can get back control of it the way that it's supposed to be controlled. Right now, we're just in the beginning of it. You know, I reject all religions. All religions. I don't believe in none of them. They can't come to me with none of them because I know that the serpent is behind those religions if it's not Yah worship. Now, they even got the serpent was so cold and so stealthy and tricky that he bruised a lot of Israelites' mind and heads is that they think that a demigod coming back to save them. A demigod coming back to save them. Man, the serpent ain't no joke. You know, if he tricked our mama and them, mean to go up against the creator, that you ain't nothing to trick. You ain't nothing to trick. That's why the serpent will bruise our head. Now let's bruise his heel by waking up and understanding that we can't do nothing but Yah worship. Alright, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood.